On May 1st, Pulwama terror attack mastermind Masood Azhar was named in the UN's list of global terrorists. The government lost little time in terming it as a big win for India and for the PM's international diplomacy. But many questions are being asked. Why was the Pulwama attack not mentioned in the case of Azhar's listing? What was the deal India had to strike with the US? And most important of all, what made China agree to Azhar being listed as a terrorist? That too after blocking India's 4 previous attempts to achieve the same. Welcome to the New Indian Express podcast. I am Shubhendra Deshmukh and you're listening to Express Jukebox. To get deeper insights, we talked to senior journalist and foreign affairs expert Ramanand Sen Gupta. Let's hear what he has to say. As you're aware of the latest development, UN declared Masood Azhar as a global terrorist.
That's right.
So I'll come straight away to the point that Hafiz Saeed was declared a terrorist. Then we have Masood Azhar, we also declared a terrorist. Then we had Mumbai, now we had Pulwama. What now?
In this particular instance, Masood Azhar being declared a terrorist right now is a very symbolic victory for us. That's the first thing I would like to say, because as you know, Hafiz Saeed was also declared a terrorist. Nothing happened to him in that sense. But it's a victory all the same, and Pakistan, of course, has twisted the whole thing to say that, look, there's no reference to Pulwama, there's no reference to Kashmir, that we're talking about some other earlier issues with Hafiz Saeed and it's with Masood Azhar. And it's got nothing to do really. The fact that there is no reference to Pulwama shows that the world believes that he was not responsible for it. So that is the thing. But here's the interesting part. Coming as it does just before the election, during the election time, is of course one factor that you must not overlook, because it gives a big boost to the government. But for the past month or so, I think we've been wanting Masood Azhar declared a terrorist for the past 10 years or so, almost. So we must try and understand what made China change its mind. Now, if we want to look at why China changed its mind, there are two things. One, the US and the others this time, they said if China again puts a hold on the declaration to declare him, they will take it to the general UN Security Council for a vote. The only way that, China would have been able to stop it is with a veto. But in that case, it would lose a lot of face because all the other members would be for the thing and the world would know that China supports a terrorist organization. However, having said that, from the Indian side, I think there's been a trade-off which, I'm not going to negate the positive side of this declaration. It is a very, very big victory, symbolically, yes, but also otherwise because, it put Pakistan on notice, it puts the ISI in a bit of a bind. But my understanding is that part of the deal that we've had with the US for it to continue pressing this is that we have said we will not object to the UN stopping our import of oil from Iran. Earlier, all this time, we had resisted it, saying we don't accept unilateral declarations by the US, not UN. This time, I believe the agreement has been that, okay, if the US helps us get Masood Azhar banned, we will pull out our objections to the waiver of oil import from Iran. Now, Iran accounts for about 13% of our supplies. So for the past 1 month or a bit more, we've been sort of hustling to ensure that our oil supplies are in line. If that is indeed the case, then I personally believe that we will face a problem because Iran is not just about oil. We have
Chabahar port also there.
We have Chabahar port. We have other engagements with Iran on various other aspects, including counterterrorism and things. And, there is, I don't see a very big point in sort of, pissing Iran off at the moment. We were seen as one of the standouts so far. The US argument, of course, has always been that many American allies are also sort of, have agreed to that proposal. But in our case, we had always insisted so far that we don't accept unilateral sanctions, which is what the US has imposed. This was not a UN sanction, it's only an American sanction. But now you'll notice that quietly we seem to have agreed. Whether or not that trade-off works, whether or not this has been a victory in that sense, I am not so personally sure because, it will have an impact. That has indeed been the trade-off.
But if this is the trade-off, the diplomacy, yes. It can be inferred from this all this led that the international diplomacy of the Modi government has actually cost exchequers directly.
I wouldn't say that in a very direct sense because, we had this month and a half where we sort of imported as much oil as we could from everywhere so that we have what we call a strategic reserve. And we have negotiated with Saudi Arabia and UAE and others to also give us that additional 15% to make up for that. But in some ways, perhaps yes, because we were getting LNG and at a very subsidized rate from Iran, which the others may not be willing to give us. So yes, in a very indirect way, perhaps you can say it costs the exchequer. But I'm looking at it from a slightly more holistic view that strategically, forget the oil part, even if we didn't have this oil thing going on with Iran, I don't see India sort of, being very upfront about its dealings with the Middle East. All this time, we've in West Asia, we have had all these people in place. We have had dealings with Iran, we have had dealings with Iraq, we have had dealings with... But now to suddenly back out under American influence or American, diplomacy is not going to go down well with others in the region too, who will all say that, look, now it has become a sort of a, almost like a puppet of the US.
Yeah, in future, if as you said, strategically speaking, if we have Chabahar port, we are already Chabahar port there, and and Prime Minister Modi personally went to Iran for that port. But
yes.
in this case, do you see that Iran might give away the Chabahar port, or we might lose the Chabahar port to China?
No, it's not that. You see, Chabahar port is a huge thing. It's a massive complex of about 4 or 5 of these long terminals. We have helped. We are partly joint financiers of one large sort of a berth. So, the problem will be that if I doubt if, you're saying, will China take over? China has already been invited. Pakistan has been invited. The whole world has been invited to come and invest in Chabahar port. It's not just India and Iran. You see, we have just one long that kind of a thing in which we have a sort of a joint holding, which we have put money into the project. But our funds for that project also extend to the subsequent infrastructure which connects Chabahar with road and rail all the way into Afghanistan, and then in Afghanistan all the way up into Central Asia. We have put some huge sums of money into that infrastructure. Which, if it goes out of our hands, or if, Iran starts making a fuss, the others will use, because we have already started building those things.
And that others, the first person to use that would be China, that infrastructure.
China is very keen to use it. China is very, very keen to use it, and China will immediately link it with the Belt and Road project. More importantly, in this process, we are also going to, in many ways, lose the sort of goodwill that we had with Afghanistan in many ways, because a lot of our projects, that is, if Iran suddenly decides, I don't know whether we somehow convinced the Iranians that, that this is done in a bigger interest, or we've done some other deal with Iran. I'm not sure about that. But my understanding is the deal we had was that we will stay quiet, because end of the month, all import will be stopped from Iran. So if Iran is willing to live with that and still be friends with India, great. I don't know whether Iran will agree to that.
But as we spoke earlier, all over the world is having investments in Chabahar port, and we have from that route of Iran, Afghanistan, and Central Asia, the infrastructure which we are building.
Right.
So, do you think that this could be the factor which, when Modi and Xi summit, which happened recently, they have discussed this thing?
Jointly making the investments through Afghanistan, through Iran? I don't think so. You see, even in Afghanistan, China has been trying to put a lot of infrastructure. As far as I can see, they don't seem to be connected. We seem to be building parallel lines of construction rather than, jointly doing something. There has been talk of doing some big work after Wuhan in Afghanistan. so far that has been limited to training Afghan diplomats, training Afghan policemen. Those are the areas where we seem to be doing some kind of joint effort as in India and China together, helping train diplomats. Because you see, here India being opposed to the Belt and Road cannot suddenly now say that we'll build a road that connects to the Belt and Road.
In Azhar's listing, the Pulwama hasn't been mentioned. Why do you think
Pulwama hasn't been mentioned? Kashmir. That's part of the deal that the US made with China. Chinese were adamant that Pakistan, they must have taken Pakistan into confidence. That's fine, we do this, but don't bring up Kashmir. Or in fact, if you look at the Pakistani statement, they defended the Chinese, saying that technical proposals and all that. Second, the Chinese have been very clear that they agreed only after they looked at the revised proposal submitted by the US. Now the revised proposal did not have any mention of either Pulwama or Kashmir. It's only got references to Afghanistan and other places that this guy links to Al Qaeda and all that. So that the Indian reaction, even today they mentioned that we don't need to give a full terror biodata. What matters is to get Masood Azhar listed. It's a big deal. His assets will be frozen. There's a travel ban. Pakistan will have to show that they're doing something. So what they usually did to Dafi side, they will do again. This was done totally under American pressure. The Americans really stood very firm. They were threatening to take the whole thing. In fact, China had said that, no, we'll do this, but we'll do it after the elections. But the Americans said they actually gave them till the 29th. They said, if you don't do this by the 29th, then we will take it to the entire UN for a vote. And China never wanted that.
So do you see that it is the chance for India to, whichever government comes next, to go into UN and say that this country is the source of terrorism, and we should the push for the isolation of Pakistan, which the Prime Minister Modi talked earlier. Do you think that this can be done now?
That we have already been doing for a long time. Now the key question comes up is that the Financial Action Task Force, which is supposed to be meeting in June, which Pakistan has complied with their listing. You see, Pakistan has a big economic problem right now. A lot of the money that they were supposed to get, they want funds from the IMF. The IMF has been demanding that if they will not give money to Pakistan unless it explains all the financial implications of the Belt and Road. I personally feel Pakistan itself is not aware of the financial implications of the Belt and Road because it's a very opaque kind of a system. The Chinese work like that. So Pakistan is in need of money. If the Financial Action Task Force, and strangely enough, China will become the chairman of the FATF soon, I think, just before the decision is taken. That's a far more powerful impact on Pakistan if the FATF decides to blacklist Pakistan for not complying with a lot of these stipulations that they put forward on terror financing. If that happens, Pakistan will not get any more foreign investment. IMF will not give it any money. It will be in a big financial soup.
While the long-standing demand has been fulfilled, India still has a long way to go in the fight against terror. From what Ramanand has said, it is clear that a lot has been put in line by India to achieve its aim of getting Azhar listed as a terrorist. So has Masood Azhar's global terrorist tag come with a heavy price tag for India? Well, we can but only wait and find out. Thank you for listening to the podcast. If you like our show, please mention it in the comment section below. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and download the TNI mobile app for latest updates.